Hi, I'm Alex, and this is 6 Seasons in a Podcast. It's a podcast dedicated to talking to the writers, which has been a great process of doing. And talking to, now it's been a pleasure talking to a lot of the cast. This week, it's my immense pleasure to talk to Charley Koontz, who is, as I stated earlier, he's my hero from the show. And Mr. Charley Koontz, welcome to 6 Seasons in a Podcast.
Thank you so much, man. That's awesome. As I stated before we started recording, you should absolutely aim higher on that. But I am absolutely grateful and appreciative to be here, and we finally made it happen.
A lot of fans will know that one of the episodes that you're in, that you highlight in, is one of my favorite episodes ever. So I know that there are people who are saying, or just know that this is a really great experience for me. And so thanks again. How do you get started? How does one get started? Was it commercials? Was it local theater? Was it, how did you make that break into TV and entertainment?
With everything, it's a huge, huge dose of luck. I went to college at Loyola Marymount University, and there was a class when I was a theater major. I was a film major for a little while, and then I changed over to theater because I had, done it in high school, and the girls were pretty and all that. It was a lot less work. I was like, cameras, lenses, this is hard. Can I dress up in costumes and flirt? That sounds so much more fun. But there was a class that was kind of for late seniors, second semester seniors, that was geared toward career development in the film and television industry that was, taught by a manager. And I ended up getting signed by that manager. And, so before I got out of school, I was really lucky to have met somebody that I connected with and, thought there might be some sort of potential there. And I did a handful of commercials, but, I did Community. I did my first episode of Community 6 months after I graduated from college.
Wow. So
I fell ass backwards right into something pretty extraordinary. And that, it's weird to say it doesn't have anything to do with anything, really. I happened to go in, and the Community experience was especially specific because, D&D gets a lot of love, and I am so appreciative of that. But I also think very fondly on Neil's Fine, which was my first line on Community about 2 episodes before D&D. It was a scene with in the anthropology class with John Oliver.
Yeah. Yeah,
and so I actually auditioned with just the 2 words Neil's Fine. And
what John Oliver's response is?
Not from an actuarial standpoint.
Right.
If I recall correctly.
It was great. Yep.
And, obviously, the world almost didn't even know how important he was about to be.
Mm-hmm.
But that's always just an interesting part of it to me, is that D&D gets so much love, but my recollection of the experience is going in for a one-line co-star, and it wasn't that big of a deal. And then you go in and you do it. I was obviously excited to be there, but the show had not really reached its pinnacle of pop culture psychosis yet. It was just, and then I get a call and said, they'd like you to come back. And then the second episode was D&D. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Based on the one line?
Wow.
Huh. What? That can't possibly be true.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Yeah, and we have that episode now. Let's talk about it a little bit, if you're up for it.
Sure. Yeah. No, pass.
Yeah. All right.
I'll take no questions on Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I should have said that before the interview.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Let's talk about the sequel to it, but we won't talk about.
Yeah. I have a good story about the sequel to it, by the way.
All right. Well, let's talk about it first, and then we'll go backwards. We'll Tarantino this thing, and
my favorite story about advanced Dungeons and Dragons is that obviously they wanted to do a sequel, and they brought in David Cross, who's a much more qualified human being to make art than I am. So good solid call on their part. But
and Jonathan Banks,
and Jonathan Banks, man, that was incredible.
Yeah, it was.
That was.
Yeah.
I mean, I was rewatching. Not even rewatching. I was watching for the first time Breaking Bad when I got to be on set a couple of times with Jonathan Banks, and he's such an amazing human being. He always said, I said, "Have you been? It's nice to see you." And I remember one time he was talking about his house in Albuquerque or whatever, and he said, like, I just fell in love with the area. I used to work on a show called Breaking Bad. I was like, yeah, man, I got it.
Yeah,
I know, dude. You're you.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was amazing. But David Cross was incredible, and Paramount, which is in Hollywood, the studio that we shot at, is right across the street from another studio called Raleigh Studios, where they shot Castle. And Nathan Fillion happened to be on set this one weird day on advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And I had to come into the sound booth to do ADR for a different episode. I had to redo a line or whatever. And I thought I'd go over to the set and see if anybody was around, like the cast or crew or whatever, and say hi. And they were all doing this big rehearsal with the heads of all the departments, lighting and grip and sound and everything. All these people were in there, and Nathan Fillion was watching. I pull this curtain back at the end of their rehearsal. Dan's there, everything. And I go, what the fuck is this? What is going on here? Y'all decided to have another episode without me? And then I see this gigantic 7-foot Nathan Fillion, like way in the back for some reason. And I go, Castle's here? And I don't get to be here? Wow, guys. And that was I believe, a minor birthing of that amazing gag where Neil walks around in the background in that episode. They did call me back the next day.
Nice.
They're like, we got to put him in here somehow.
Yeah. That feels like the Bear Down for Midterms entrance, too. Whoa, guys.
Yeah.
Too soon.
That was an incredible one. I got to be there on set that day that Ken did that amazing monologue, which he's talked about for a long time. Yeah, I got to be there for that.
Yeah. All right. So Dungeons and Dragons. We obviously I have spent multiple episodes talking about the Chang in the room. And we don't need to go into it. I think what I can say about it is it's really sad to me that situation, that scene, it just takes away from the point of this episode. And I think that's everyone who I've talked to is like, that's just like the bummer of it, is that I'm glad they're taking, the steps to avoid people being upset by it.
Well, if I can give my 2 cents,
yeah.
I love that episode. I mean, I credit that episode with the life that I live in no small terms. It was really important to me. It was, it's a moment in time in my career that I didn't really know what was going on. I was really just kind of winging it. I was sitting across the table from Chevy Chase for some reason. I was a kid, and I was getting to express myself in a lot of ways that I didn't know I needed to express. And it was just an interesting time, and it was a strange feeling to even go and shoot it and kind of feel like you're not supposed to be the funny one. Like, let this A team of brilliant comedic human beings carry the weight, and you just sit in your feelings for a while. It was really a cathartic experience for me, personally. That being said, it's television. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be joyful, and people have gotten the word out about the episode. It's not an unknown episode, which I'm very grateful for. So agree or disagree with the big decisions that happen at corporate levels for corporate reasons or whatever. But ultimately, in my core, this cultural conversation that we're having is long overdue. It's hugely important. Yep. There will be, I think Yvette in her interview with you said, overcorrections, and it's supposed to be fun, So whatever the episode means to me, I have no interest in it existing if it offends people, and that's a personal judgment to make for each individual viewer. And it has legs, it has fans that will spread it and show it to each other, and it has incredible value in this other aspect of mental health and bullying and all that kind of stuff. But it's somehow found its way into a national conversation that is hugely important to be having. And at the end of the day, it's just a television show, and it's not unavailable. It's around if people are interested in watching it, and I'm just very grateful for having had the experience at all.
When you're reading this script, when you're living, doing your acting, when you are preparing for the weight of this script and what they're trying to say, what are your thoughts? What are you, how did you approach this?
It was tough. It was a surprise, ultimately, in the very beginning. They asked me to come back, which I was absolutely excited to come back. It was really fun to do it the first time, and jobs are good. So I was absolutely happy to come back. I was invited to a table read at a time when I didn't know that oftentimes guest stars aren't invited to table reads. And so I was like, cool. Everything was a new experience about it. And so I came into the room. I was early, of course, because I'm a dork. And I sat in the first chair I saw, which somebody, either a producer or a writing assistant, came in shortly after me and said, "That's Chevy Chase's chair." So I swear to God, the first move I made was to sit in Chevy's chair.
Yep.
Which I was like, I'll just go ahead and move. That's cool.
I'll move myself.
Yeah, I'll move myself. But there were scripts all laid out. I had not been given a copy of the script. I didn't really have any understanding of why I was there. I hadn't been given a copy of the script yet, and so I started flipping through before everybody had gotten there, and they were shooting a scene or something before the table read. And I saw that Neil was on every page.
Wow.
And I was like, this is a practical joke. This is the biggest mistake anyone has ever made by letting me do this. I had only done one or two other shows previous to that. I was like, this is a horrible, horrible miscalculation on their part. This can't possibly be true. And then everybody came in and they read it. So, that was a big, I didn't realize how much weight it was going to have, no pun intended. It was heavy and it was strange. And, what acting is such especially film and television acting, is a physical experience. Your body is your tool. You are the literal embodiment of this character. You know what I mean? I always find it interesting when people say, how do you feel about getting cast as overweight characters? And I'm like, well, I don't really get cast as overweight characters. I sort of look the way I look. And when you point a camera at me, that's what it looks like. But, it was an odd experience. And I'm really, really grateful, to be honest, that I had it so early, because it's I just got lucky with how good the writing was, and that there was that moment at the end when Neil gets to take a little power back. That was not negotiated. That was not, I would have done it if it was, I was that early in my career. I would have done it if it was, horribly insulting, which parts of it were.
Yeah.
But to have that moment at the end and have him come back and take a little ownership of himself and move out of this depression, I got really, really lucky that it had that ending. So it made the previous 4 days or whatever we did when we were shooting it, where you're really getting kind of a ton of abuse from, Fletch,
yeah.
which was an intense experience.
Yeah.
But to have it kind of wrap up in that way. And again, I'm really glad that it happened that early in my career, because it actually afforded me the opportunity to say no to things like that afterward, because I've done it. I've been able to participate in a perfect version of it. So, I would get auditions for other shows that were much more fat joke centric. And it gave me a little leg to stand on with, like, I don't want to be that guy. And I've already kind of participated in a perfect version of that story.
Yeah.
And that's just luck. And that was all the writers and their empathy. And that has always been what the show has been about to me, is empathy, and love and brokenness and all that stuff. So I hate to ramble, but that was
that
mostly
beautiful.
my experience with it.
Yeah. Have you had anyone reach out to you and, putting you on the spot, like, hey, this episode, I went through this. I mean, I can say, certainly for me, it was very powerful. And seeing this hero, it's not Jeff who's the one who rescues you. You've rescued yourself out of this pit that you were going through, and you saw what you could become in Chevy, and then you emerged. No, I'm just going to have sadness and empathy and pity this poor man.
Yeah, I mean, you have to see, the danger of almost what you can become. And that's sort of how I had always thought of it. In that moment, people have their opinions about Pierce. Pierce is not a bad person. Pierce wants love. Pierce wants friends. Pierce wants all these kinds of things. But he's an incredibly complicated character. So the way that I had always thought of it was sort of getting Neil at the moment that a decision is made. He's a kid in community college, and he's having a tough time, and you can take that time, that moment, and see which paths are laid in front of you. And I think in that moment, Jeff brings Neil to see a potential future or a darkness. Maybe not, obviously not intentionally,
sure.
But that to me is sort of what spurs Neil to show the empathy. And to accept the empathy, and to, accept the help. And that's the decision that's the moment that a decision is made to value yourself and stand up for yourself. In terms of, people who've reached out, obviously social media is a powerful tool that drives me to tears more often than not, but in a good way. So a lot of people have reached out. Early on, my first experience with the episode was I went to a comic store that was in Hollywood, used to be on Sunset, called Meltdown Comics, which has hosted a lot of comedy nights, and Dan used to run Harmontown out of there. And I went to a Harmontown show, and somebody came up to me and said, hey, I recognize you from the show. And that was the first time that I had ever seen myself on television. And that was,
wow,
that was heavy. And the representation of feelings, I don't want to usurp that word, because it's doing so much amazing work at the moment.
Sure.
For a lot of amazing causes and wonderful artists and stories that are being told. But body dysmorphia is a real thing.
Yeah.
People are concerned about their bodies. And that was one person who came up and said, it was nice not to see somebody with an 8-pack trying to feel feelings. And
yeah.
That has value to me. I really appreciate that when I watch the.
Let's talk about some of the other episodes and just in general. Like, I'm looking at IMDb, and there's probably 16 episodes. Do any of the other episodes stand out to you? Do you have any fun stories? Maybe something that I know that the Ass Crack Bandit one's a great one because of Real Neil Pipes of Steel.
Totally. I completely forgot that I was in that episode.
Yeah.
I just did a rewatch when it came onto Netflix. I have no recollection of shooting that episode. It was crazy to me. Real Neil with Pipes of Steel, I think, showed up for the first time in Pillows and Blankets and Pillows.
Yeah, okay.
One of those ones.
Yep.
Where I was doing some wartime reporting or whatever. And I got to the Ass Crack Bandit episode in my Netflix rewatch, which everyone was doing when it finally came on. And I run down the hallway past Garrett, and I was like, I have no recollection of that at all. And then I get to the end of the episode, because I disappear for most of it. I didn't realize that I had done a voiceover announcing Pierce's death.
Oh.
I don't know what in my life I was thinking about at the time, but I completely forgot. What I do remember, after it jogged my memory, was I remember after I remembered it, that I went in the day I recorded it, is when I met the lovely Brie Larson in passing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which was kind of cool. She was in the booth before me, and I was like, oh, you're quite beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow, you're kind of shockingly attractive. Hello. That was about the extent of it. But yeah, so Ass Crack Bandit was awesome. A great weird memory from the paintball episode, the Western Fistful of Paintballs.
Yep.
I always forget what they're called. But yeah, Fistful of Paintballs. The shooting was amazing, and it's all fun. The most fun stories are the things that happen off camera, really. Mm-hmm. But I was sitting with Anthony Michael Hall on some sort of break when a contest winner who had, paid some amount of money to charity and got to visit the set came to set, and they walked around for a little while, and I met him, and I was like, oh, this is John, whoever it was. Sure. Well, welcome, nice to have you, whatever. So I end up sitting with Anthony Michael Hall of legendary status, yes, of legendary fame. And this guy gets down on one knee, and Anthony and I both go, no. Please, God, don't let this person do this. And this guy proposed to his girlfriend on our set while I was covered in paint and sweat, and I was wearing a little tiny top hat. I was like, this is a weird memory that this person is making right now.
Wow, if that person's on Twitter, I'll have to make sure that they announce themselves. Someone got engaged over on the community set. We need to know who.
Yeah, I want to know how it's going.
Yeah.
That seems like a big swing to me, but, I would have done it maybe on the Golden Gate Bridge or something. But, who am I? What do I know?
Yeah, they did it for love.
They did it for love, damn it.
Which is a great line of yours from Basic Lupine Urology.
That was an awesome episode. That was Megan Gans, who is an absolute legend. Yeah. Already, and God,
and 20 years old. So I mean, she's.
I know, totally. Honestly, I swear this is such a genuine feeling. The decades of art we're going to have from her is. Yeah. I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
It's going to be amazing, and it's already been amazing. But yeah, that episode was awesome. My big memory from that episode was the lighting, in a really weird way. Was the courtroom in the biology class or whatever, the lighting of Law and Order episodes is so specific because it's like always dusk.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Yes.
It's heavy smoke and like light coming through the blinds. And we did that whole huge scene. There's so many characters in that scene. We did it for days. I have another weird story I just remembered. Anyway, I've totally forgot about this. You're really jogging things loose.
Good.
What was bizarre about it is that we shot that scene for like 14 hours, and it was dusk the entire time, which sends your body into the weirdest feeling. Like your body feels like it's about to be dark for hours. And it was exhausting. It was so strange because I went in when it was daytime and I left when it was nighttime, and it had been dusk every moment in between that. It was so weird. But what I just remembered is that Ken, who was the bailiff in that episode because Chang was the security guard, handcuffed me and lost the key.
Huh.
That was a weird moment. Like the handcuffs went on when it was revealed that Neil did his thing, and then the first take, Ken just like click and clicked it all the way shut. And it was like, okay, we've cut. Do you have can I get out of these? And he was like, huh? Yeah. Yeah, it was amazing. It was so bizarre. So I was stuck in those handcuffs for about 20 minutes while somebody rustled up a key.
Well, luckily that wasn't too long. Yeah, that's good.
20 minutes is a long time to be in handcuffs, my friend.
Yeah, I guess when you're shooting.
Especially with big old wrists like mine.
Yeah. That's really funny. That's a great story. So the last episode that you were in was Basic Email Security, because you weren't in season 6.
Yeah, I had moved to CSI. And the way that I even ended up in that episode of season 6 was after... Season 6 was the Yahoo year, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So after NBC came to their senses and canceled us, and then Yahoo lost their senses and picked us back up, much to their chagrin in the end, they moved. They moved production. We were shooting at Paramount, but they moved in a bizarro piece of happenstance onto the lot that I was shooting CSI on.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah, so I was in stage 3, and I think they were in like stage 20 or something. So a call, I don't know if anybody realized that, but a call had come in kind of late in the evening and said, would you like to come back to Community? And it's like, of course, always. Any time I can do that would be amazing. Mm-hmm. And they said, well, it's late notice, there's no script, and it shoots tomorrow. And I was like, I have tomorrow off. I'll absolutely be there. And they said, well, it's at this lot and this stage. I was like, perfect. I can park in my own spot. It will be almost zero change to my routine. It was cool. It was very, very lucky that I happened to have the day off and get to go, and, Jay Chandra Sekar, and it was, and Paget was amazing. She gave me a lot of great advice about being on an hour-long procedural, which she has plenty of experience with. Yeah, that was cool.
That's great. What was it like then, going from a guest star to a series regular on CSI?
It was awesome, dude.
Yeah.
It was legit. I got my own little room. Everything was sweet.
Yeah.
No, it was cool. It was different, which was really amazing. I had been doing some guest stars here and there on other things and recurring on one or two other things. But I was really Neil for that moment. So to get to do something different and get to do kind of a running, jumping crime procedural was a really awesome experience. Mm-hmm. And I got to be honest, the best thing about it, and this is going to sound obvious, of course, to anybody who's an actor, is getting to act. I mean, like, the best thing about getting to be a regular is that I got to go to work every day. And in the beginning of a career, I think a lot of it's a hard career to get into. It's a hard career to break into. And a lot of times at the very beginning, it's fueled by vanity. You know, you want to be famous. Everybody thinks they're Tom Cruise, and you imagine all the parties and all that kind of stuff. And that kind of blinds you to the stupidity of trying to do this in the first place. Your own vanity drives you forward. But getting to do Community and then also really getting to do CSI was like, I love being at work. I love the physical act of doing this. I love the friends that you make when you go to work every day, which actors don't usually get to do. And the cast was stacked. It was unreal. Patricia Arquette and Ted Danson and Little Bow Wow is a friend of mine for some reason. It was a weird world, but it was really fun.
Yeah, that's amazing. So let's talk about The Boys, because that's what you're working on now. And you were Tommy Peterson in an episode that's dropping. When I put this out, it will be pretty much available. So I think we figured that out. So it's out now. We'll just say it's out now.
It's out now, everybody. It was a really cool. It's an awesome show. It's you know, I wanted to talk with you about it, and I wanted people to kind of get turned on to the show because I feel like the Venn diagram of Community fans and fans of The Boys would, you know, mesh really well.
Yeah,
it's not a perfect circle, but you know, it's using kind of pop culture to raise awareness on a bunch of things. And I play a character named Tommy Peterson, and he's sort of outside of the general world of the superhero-dom with all the main stars. I've got my own little vignette type thing, but this season of The Boys is dealing with white supremacy in many different themes, but one of the themes is white supremacy and how that gets sort of born into this political climate. And so my character is affected by and essentially radicalized by memes and the 24-hour news cycle and the internet. And it's another lonely, isolated character, which I wanted to do and was lucky to do. We're being honest. Would have done it either way. But what I was grateful to see the parallels between this character and Neil. So it's really one vignette. It's not a huge arc with the superheroes or whatever. And it's one little kind of side story that I'm very proud of about this guy who gets radicalized into fear, but it's based in fear and then into action, as we've seen. That's how it generates.
Yeah.
So it's something that I'm, as any actor will tell you, an incredible joy to play something that you are so fundamentally and morally repulsed by, which I am 100%. It makes my blood boil, the hate and fear and bullshit of all of this stuff, not to rant on, but what I see value in is the choice that Neil makes to take ownership of his life and become a person of substance in a moment of desperation. This character did not take. And I feel that they are emotional siblings. These two characters, and you know, in Hollywood, as we talk about representation and all that kind of stuff, you also have to accept the fact that The Rock and I are not competing for gigs. So that's okay. There's plenty of space in art for everyone. So that boils down into becoming a type and whatever. And then you hopefully don't get stereotyped into that type. But, you know, I exist in this world, in this body, and I've got valuable things to say about the loneliness that I felt and the downness that I felt and the insecurities that I felt. And, they can go a myriad of different ways.
Yeah.
And this person at this moment in our world is participating and letting that loneliness kind of overtake him and become a desperation that leads into action, which is, I don't want to spoil it. I hope people watch it, but, kind of repugnant action. But it takes place, the show, as these movie star superheroes spout their rhetoric and, vie for the minds of the American people. And this one small vignette kind of takes you out of that world and shows you how it's affecting people on the ground, day to day, who are susceptible to that kind of messaging.
Anyway, well, Mr. Charley Koontz, thank you so much for being on 6 Seasons in a Podcast. You were a lovely guest, and I just had a wonderful dynamic time with you, and I hope you had a good time.
I did have a great time. I would like to add one more thing.
Sure.
This has nothing to do with anything other than bliss and joy, and I have to make a special shout out to Yvette Nicole Brown and Ken Jong, who have been unbelievably supportive of me over the years, with absolutely no benefit to themselves. They're lovely, lovely humans, dear, dear, dear friends. Everybody on the show is great. Everybody was fun, but they're just amazing. And
yeah,
there ain't nothing behind that other than my deep, deep love for them.
Having briefly, met them just through, I've had some interactions now on DMs and whatnot, and Yvette's in my conversation was very profound to me and helpful, and Ken has just been wonderful as well through different reasons, different things, and so I actually can understand your sentiments completely, that they are wonderful people, and so yeah,
they are the best of us for sure.
Yeah, they're pretty.
We're lucky to have them.
Fantastic. Well, sir, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks, brother. That was amazing. It was so nice to chat with you. You're doing such a great job. Thank you for bringing people together. And, really, I want to reiterate that this is a time that joy is lacking and much needed, and you're providing that thoughtfully. And it's just really great. So congratulations on a year. This is really wonderful. I was so happy to sit down and chat.